Well, once again, it's time to go inside EMS. I am your host, Chris Cebollero. It's every Friday for the past 10 years. We've been here with you, delivering the latest and greatest of what's going on inside EMS. And with me always is my good friend, the one we call Kelly Grayson. Kelly Grayson, what's going on, KG?
Oh man, living the dream. Just enjoying my desk job. It's going to turn into hard work here in about 3 weeks.
Let me
So
hear your best New York talk. Anything yet? Have you got any?
New York,
Hey yo, hey yo. What are you guys
like
doing? Where you going? Where you guys going?
forget about forget about
Forget
it.
about it.
A Brooklyn accent and a New Orleans accent, identical. You could pick a guinea from Brooklyn and plunk him down in the middle of New Orleans, and he would fit in perfectly, and vice versa. Hey man, where are you from? I'm from New Orleans.
Is that how they talk?
Yeah, yeah, that's how they
Whatever.
talk.
Just whatever. And you just make me crazy sometimes. So speaking
No.
about crazy, there is a story that has been going around the internet that is making EMS people crazy. And this goes back to October 27, 2023, where a DC firefighter EMT was fired for stopping at a Chick-fil-A ahead of an ALS call. And the story goes on to say that Ambulance 3 was the closest unit to a woman experiencing chest pain. She was at a higher level of care. I guess if you want to say higher level of care where she was having chest pain, there is some differences in, did they stop on the way to Chick-fil-A? Did they order their food and were picking it up on the way? I don't know that that's really what we want to get into today. I think we really want to get into the ethics of if you're assigned to a call and the duty to act and things to that effect. I do think we need to bring up the fact that there are a lot of us out there who have done this job that have missed a lot of meals, that have paid for a lot of meals and have not been able to pick up that food. So I think we do want to be able to touch on that a little bit. But one of the things that was really incredible, Kelly, and I'll give you the floor here in a second, was all the comments that were on the Facebook page. Go to EMS1, look up the story, and actually tagged you in that in those comments of people defending the fact that these folks stopped at the call. But I mean, your initial thoughts, Kelly, when you read the story, when you read the comments, um, where'd you sign on?
No. Well, I'll make it plain. It's unethical. It's flat out unethical. Anyone who defends it is um, morally and ethically ambiguous themselves. Uh, this is an unconscionable act, and it's really hard to be the most dysfunctional organization in a city that includes U.S. Congress, but this agency managed to do it somehow. Um, the thing is ethics or how you behave when no one is looking. That's it. It's there's not a whole lot of gray area in ethical situations, and the whole point of 911 and calling an ambulance and the honor of what we do is you call, we come, no questions. Now, is that the most efficient method in the world? Is the most efficient system in the world? Is it rife with abuse? Certainly, but there's honor in upholding that compact between us and the public. And anytime we dishonor that compact, we injure our public trust, sometimes permanently. And it's not like this particular agency has a surfeit of trust that they can waste because they're known nationwide for not being that good.
Well,
Um,
let's be fair though. I mean, there was a time
one
when
one, but yeah,
DC
there was.
Fire was in the news all the time for questionable practice, but we haven't talked about them for a few years,
Well,
right? So,
that
so let's
that is
we
true.
can't just disparage the whole
I don't
department.
know if they're still spelled DCFEMS anymore, but that is true, and that's fair. So a little harsh to paint an entire agency with one crew's response. And in the story, it is plain that they took appropriate action against the crew. So kudos to DC Fire and EMS for that. because I can remember a time, and you can probably as well, when that sort of thing might have been condoned or they wouldn't have been so decisive in their actions. So kudos to DC Fire EMS for doing the right thing. But I don't know, Chris, how in the heck you justify this? Yes, it's a deplorable situation where you've been slammed all day and you're shorthanded like every other ambulance company and ambulance service in the world, and you haven't eaten, and you've just been, like the Baltimore when they assign the crew a call umpteenth time after their shift was supposed to end, and the guy threatened to drive his rig into the inner harbor. That sort of thing should not happen. However, there you still have to do the call, and no way you cut it is it acceptable that you shirk that duty. I don't see how people justify that.
And I think that one of the things that we have to touch on is the term duty to act. And
Yes.
that is the responsibility that we have. And once we're assigned to the call, I mean, I can count the number of times I have been waiting in line for food. I can't count the number of times I have paid for food and waited for it to come. And I've been dispatched to a call. I've had to get out of line. I've had to lose my money. I didn't get a chance to eat that day. And, I think we learn in EMS that we need to be able to bring a little something with us. Man, I started carrying protein bars and little snacks in my in my, my satchel. Indiana Jones had one. And, I think that those are some of the things that we have to do. I've had to use the restroom really bad. I've had to get some food really bad. And a quick story. And I remember this, and this incident really brought it to my attention, man. It was probably about 25 years ago. We went to a cardiac arrest, and the system I was in, we couldn't leave the scene until the coroner showed up. So my partner was just starving.
Did you?
What is it?
You didn't have pizza sent to the scene, did you?
No, we did not. But my partner came out of the guy's kitchen eating a ham and cheese sandwich. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? He's like, well, he's not going to be using it anymore, So he's eating the guy's food. Well, and I'm like, man, we can't be doing this. So, but it's still the point of we have a duty to act. We have to be able to respond as we need to respond, regardless of our own personal. And there are people, again, that were on the Facebook page that were justifying that it was okay because people are hungry. But this is a job where we forego our own feelings. We forego our own, we run into danger when people are running away. And this is one of the times, man. Sometimes you may not be able to eat. Sometimes you may not be able to use the restroom right away. And I think that this was a decision that really kind of caused some challenge, but duty to act is really important here.
And they abrogated their duty. We can all empathize with these guys. We have all been in that spot. But as you pointed out, you work in EMS, you learn to develop the digestive system of a billy goat, and you learn to wolf down cold food and cold fries. And, by the way, Chick-fil-A waffle fries do hold their taste and texture better than, say, McDonald's when they're cold. So keep that in mind. But those are the sacrifices that you make when you put on the uniform. That's not going to be useful. If you want regularly scheduled meal and bathroom breaks, go to dispatch. But we are subject to the whim of our 911 customers. So it's okay to condemn the situation, and I think we all should. We should all condemn a situation that puts its EMTs overworked, underpaid, not able to eat on a regular basis, and the horrible lifestyle changes we have to go through. Blame that system, and blame the staffing or the that's the culprit there. That's fine, and that's being a good advocate for EMS and being a good advocate for our brothers. But you should not ever condone what they did. Plain and simple. You got a call. Now you can say, and they're saying this they said this both in the news story defending their actions, and other people were saying as well, but patient care wasn't harmed. How do you know that? How do you know that from this story? You don't. And how do you quantify it even if someone said so? In the news story, they said that medic three and ambulance three, and I don't know their terminology there at DC Fire EMS. I'm assuming it was an ALS engine or something. Medic three was closer to the call and thus was dispatched, and they arrived at the same time at the scene. So it's not like medic three was already on scene and rendering care. Nope, they arrived at the same time. The patient was in an urgent care center. Chris, you run calls to urgent care centers. Some of them are pretty egregiously incompetent, and anything higher than a nosebleed gets transferred out immediately. So you can't even really say that they were getting quality care just from the fact they were in an urgent care center. Colds and sniffles, maybe. Chest pain of a cardiac nature, no, they need to go. And you treat that just like it would a scene or somebody's living room because it's doubtful they're getting any high level care. I just, you can't justify that sort of thing. People that try sound like Dr. Ken Yong going, oh, but did you die? That's not the metric we go by.
Yeah. And I think that one of the things that we've got to flip the coin on here, and we really have to start to talk about as well, is from a leadership standpoint, what do we do to make sure that our people are getting time to break, getting time to eat, getting off on time, and not getting calls after the fact. And we've got to be able to step up as leaders and do the best that we can. One of the things that I did in my last operational role was I got with local restaurants. I was very tired of all the crews eating fast food, and I said, "Can we have a meal of the day?" Right? So, and can we get it at a nice cost? And I think it was like maybe $7, where they'd give you a meat or a chicken and a couple of vegetables or a salad, and you could call in and say, "Hey, this is Chris over here at blah blah blah. We're going to come by for a couple meals." And I think that when you're in the bigger cities like DC, that may be a little bit difficult. But when you're in smaller or medium systems where you have several restaurants, and I think that this really gave me the opportunity to make these connections when we were going to Chamber of Commerce meetings and things like that, where there were restaurant managers. But we have to make sure that our people are going to eat. We have to make sure that they're going to get some time to eat. And one of the things that we don't do well enough is make time for the necessities of the day, right? We just put them in the ambulance at 7 o'clock in the morning and don't say anything until 7 o'clock at night. Oh, by the way, you're taking a late call at 6:59. And
because it's a stat transfer that's been holding for 4 hours.
yeah, exactly. But there does have to be responsibility from the leadership team to be able to ensure that people get the breaks that they need to do the things that have to be done, i.e., I could hold it for another hour, but after that I'm gonna really have an accident or something like that. And I don't think we look at it that much. One of the things that was interesting is I got a call from an agency who asked me if I would be interested in being the leader of their department. And, I talked to him a little bit about it, and I said, well, I'm always interested in hearing opportunities. I mean, because we don't know what opportunities come up that give you the chance, to find the cure for cancer, right? I mean, maybe that's why you're calling me, is that there's some synergy here. And I said, well, I'd love to talk to you about it. I said, I can't do it right now. And he did say, well, I do want to let you know that the salary range is between $47,000 and $63,000 a year. And I said, yeah. And I said, well, unfortunately, that's not within my pay range. So I probably wouldn't be a good pick for this role. And they said, well, what's your pay range? I kind of gave it to them. And they said, well, how can systems afford that? And I said, well, there are some systems that can. I said, but what you have to realize is that good leadership will cost good money. And we have to be able to pay our paramedics and EMTs well. You've got to be able to pay your leadership staff well as well. And it's kind of things that you get what you pay for. But we do have to be able to be responsible for the crews to get their breaks, to get some time for lunch, and to get them off on time.
Yep. And your solution with the meals, the meal of the day, that's an excellent servant leadership solution right there. A manager in that situation doesn't care, okay, but a servant leader does. And this is the kind of leadership I was used to working at Acadian Ambulance. Um, on a busy day, it was not uncommon to see a supervisor show up at the hospital, and when you've been stuck on the wall, and go, look, uh, or call and say, hey, are y'all hungry? I know you hadn't had a break. What do you want for food? And we'd go fetch food and then watch our patients while we went to the EMS break room and ate. Because this particular hospital, their EMS break room was the IV pump storage facility, and that's about it. But on hot and busy days, they're showing up with Gatorade and water, and they're giving you, hey, you want some power bars? We got some. But it wasn't uncommon for them to show up with pizza and just here, And as far as I know, many of the times they paid for it out of their own pocket, because that's what a servant leader does. A manager only sees the holes in his system, the holes in his coverage map, and your UHU and your time on task, and that's all they care about. The problem is the reason you have those holes in your coverage map and your time on task is so high is because you're all understaffed, and you can't keep staff because you don't treat them well. So having a little forethought and foresight to take care of your crews and show them not only through salary, but in the culture that they are valued, that solves a great deal of your staffing problems. Not only do you keep your people, but you pull people from XYZ service that treats their people like servants and menial help. So those agencies always seem to be able to find a way. Why can you not? And that's something that is sorely lacking in EMS, and it shows in a great many agencies.
Yeah. And that's one of the things I got into a sidebar discussion with a peer on this topic through Facebook Messenger. And they were saying, we're 15 paramedics down. I don't have time to get them a break. They don't have time to get them a break. I said, well, what are you doing to get them lunch? He goes, well, we have no money for that. I said, if you're 15 paramedics down, you've got money in the budget to buy them lunch that day, right? So where their salary isn't getting spent, and you've budgeted for their salary based on the demand analysis that you need to have X amount of paramedics on the street today. Well, there aren't X amount of people on the street today, paramedics on the street today, EMTs on the street today. There's money in the budget to buy 10, 12, 15, 20 Subway sandwiches that you could pass out at the hospital when people are there. And I think that we have to be able to feel what we know is the challenge, because we've all been there. We've all had to use the restroom at that point in time. We've all missed few meals in this, doing our job. We've all paid for food that, we probably probably put a whole wing on McDonald's in Fort Worth, Texas, without them, giving me food. Man, but it's just the nature of the beast, Kelly. But give us your final thoughts and let's move along.
That investment of buying them meals or whatever, I guarantee you it's significantly less than the time and a half overtime that you're paying because you're short staffed. And if you kept people, attracted people, paid them properly, and kept your units staffed up, they wouldn't leave, and you wouldn't be paying those exorbitant overtime costs to fill the holes in your schedule. But you've heard what we think. We'd like to hear what you think. What does your agency do to take care of you? And would this sort of thing fly at your agency? Do you think they did the right thing and we shouldn't excoriate them for neglecting their call to go get food first? Or do you think, as we do, it's just unconscionable action? We'd like to hear your thoughts at the show at ems1.com. Don't forget to rate us on iTunes and check out the YouTube channel. And for myself and co-host Chris Cebollero, who never miss a meal, look at us. Thanks for tuning in to Inside EMS. We're going to catch you guys next week.